which the whole world is watching.
The course of human history is changed today.
This is not a test. This is an emergency broadcast transmission.
We're going to stay on the air for as long as possible.
We're seeing heavily armed forces being deployed.
Every man make himself and his country proud. Be brave. Be brave. Be brave.
Across the globe were breached.
There are massive casualties in Moscow, Paris. We lost communications with Tokyo, Rio, and New York.
We gotta go now! Oh, shit. Go! Everybody get down!
Zeus, satellite 1A, approaching left. Coordinates locked and loaded. Awaiting drop-off position. Satellite 1A, we have remote launch authorization. 3, 2, 1, drop.
In lockdown in the suburb of Watertown, police with guns drawn are searching door to door.
I mean, we had martial law up there.
We had martial law up there.
FBI and all these agents coming in, closing things down, going to people's houses.
At day, their advantage lies in the speed of their strike. At night, they seem to appear from the darkness. Marines and sailors of the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit's Maritime Raid Force conduct a series of urban assaults as part of a realistic urban training exercise created by Special Operations Training Group. The exercise uses aggressors, improvised explosive devices, and high-value targets in a simulated community.
I urge you people to check it out. I urge you to warn people around you. These are prison barges. These are prison...
The devil has a war plan, and we're going to expose it this morning. Now, there's a final war, you know. It's called Armageddon. Millions of men are going together in the Mideast, and there's going to be a final war called the Battle of Armageddon. There's going to be a lot of bloodshed. But simultaneously, there's another final war.
Agency was created in 1976 and charged with handling domestic emergencies. When most people think of FEMA, they think of hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, and floods. Since its inception, FEMA has consistently saved American lives. Like the Boy Scouts, FEMA aims to be prepared. They provide logistical support, food, clothing, and other services in emergency situations. The agency has also built housing facilities in locations across the world. To the mainstream media, this is just another step in preparing for catastrophes. But to others, it's something much worse. Here's where it gets crazy. It makes perfect sense to conspiracy theorists. Before you reject this theory, take a look at the laws surrounding the Constitution, FEMA, Homeland Security, and other related agencies. Pay close attention to Rex 84, the Patriot Act extensions, Operation Garden Plot, and the executive orders that created FEMA.
What are the spiritual implications behind these people? Because when these people are purposely forwarding the kingdom of darkness, the New World Order, which these 5 presidents have been doing, all I can say is, woe unto you leaders, because there is going to be a heavy price to pay, because you also are committing a spiritual type treason. Let's go back to what Judas did to the Lord. And the Lord said, it would have been better off if you had not been born. Now that's pretty heavy, because you're talking about betrayal at the highest level of our country right here. And not to mention the fact, a highest betrayal on a spiritual level, because you are going against what the Lord actually wants. You're not furthering heaven's agenda, you are furthering the kingdom of darkness's agenda. And you have people up there who call themselves Christians, including these 5 presidents, and they are doing this. All I can say is woe unto them, man.
Conspiracy theorists think these documents are only the tip of the iceberg. The rest, for now, is stuff they don't want you to know.
ICE agent's suicide note is now revealing government plans to round up and disarm Americans. They're reporting some very deeply troubling news, but nothing awake Americans don't already know. Yes, they disclosed that after writing a lengthy suicide note exposing terrifying plans that the government has for American citizens, a U.S. Customs agent walked onto a pier in New York City and blew his brains out. Sources inside the New York City Police Department have revealed contents of his suicide note that was found on his body, and they are frightening. The note outlines why the officer chose to shoot himself. Quote, this is the words of his note. The America I grew up in and cherished has been murdered by its own federal government. Our Constitution has become meaningless. Our laws politicized so badly they are no longer enforced except for political purposes. The note continued, our elected officials are, to a person, utterly corrupt and completely devoid of any love or respect for the country which pays them. To them, everything is about getting and keeping power and making illicit money from backroom deals. A quote, if the American people knew what this government is planning, they would rise up and overthrow it. If I or anyone else in the federal government revealed what is coming, we would be killed anyway. So now I will reveal what I know. It states here that American citizens will be rounded up without warrants and imprisoned without trial for God knows how long. It states that these camps have been equipped to carry out Hitler-scale killings, an actual purge of American citizens by the very government which they themselves created and pay for. And he wrote, I cannot be party to this. Certainly a frightening future painted by this suicide note.
FEMA orders 2,500 gallons of hydrogen cyanide from Brazil. And I will read. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, has ordered 2,500 gallons of hydrogen cyanide from Brazilian chemical manufacturer Asco Química, says a FEMA employee wishing to remain anonymous. The agency, he said, solicited bids from 15 foreign manufacturing plants before selecting Química as its supplier. This purchase marks the third time in 12 months FEMA will have used foreign distributors to procure lethal items that could be used to maim or kill law-abiding Americans. In January, FEMA received a shipment of 500 Chinese-made smart guillotines.
The government's your friend, you see. That's what I have to say, or they will bury me. Don't you try to criticize, and don't you ever try to talk about their lies. I don't know what you've been told, but last time I checked, we had the right to say the things we mean, to disagree and not have to face the guillotine. But if it's your head in the basket, then you just picked the wrong side of the revolution.
I say, off with their heads. And if you can't get the rest of them under control, put them in the death domes. 30 million people could be executed by the way of the guillotine. And you know something else? In the Bible it says that, and I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was committed to them. Then I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their witness to Jesus and for the word of God, who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received his mark on their foreheads or in their hand. And they lived and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. That's Revelations 24. Something to think about, you know, could these things, this guillotine, round up, the mark, the New World Order, is that something that's quickly approaching? Just something to think about.
I will be strong in the dark of the night, shining everlasting light. My people are one family, the family is strong. Today will be the day. I said wherever I go, I will be strong in the dark of the night, shining everlasting light. My people are one family, the family is strong. Today will be the day that we press on, and we are on our way. And we press on, and we are on our way. We won't wait, won't wait, won't wait. We won't wait, won't wait, won't wait. We won't wait, won't wait, won't wait. Yahweh, Yahweh, Yahweh.
That salvation is not by obedience to the law, but by the grace of God through faith in Jesus Christ. So it's not by works, it's by faith that one is saved.
What happened was a total revisitation, if you will, a total, how can I say it, upside down, topsy-turvy world that henceforth would be totally upside down from what it had been. So we had Vatican II. We had to have Vatican II to prepare us for this universalist, globalist, one-world religion.
Pastors of the Christian churches all over Ireland and the people of the Catholic Church accepted the Catholic Church as a genuine form of Christianity, and that meant the end of the true Christian faith in Ireland in 1172.
Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. I'd like to begin with something that you've said in your book, and that is that the devil is lodging in the Vatican. With all of the allegations we've seen recently of sexual abuse involving priests, do you believe that is the devil's work?
Whenever the devil gets control of a nation, and I don't care where it is, he demands human sacrifice. That is the price that those who give themselves to the devil must pay.
The true Christian church recognized this effort, and because they had the unction of the Holy Spirit, they weren't beguiled by the tricks of trying to Judaize the church. However, there were a mass of people who were nominal Christians, who were attracted by the popularity of the Christian church and the novelty and the merits of what the Christian church represented.
Well, yes, the devil tempts everyone. He tempts everyone in every environment. In particular, he tempts those on top. In politics, in economics, in sport. And naturally, he tempts above all the religious leaders. So you shouldn't be surprised if the devil tempts those in the Vatican.
Mr. Klovenbach is, of course, the Jesuit general. He commands his staff, which consists of his assistants, 7 or 8 of them. One of them is his confessor. He has an advisor, and he has his assistants that are over various continents. And then underneath those assistants are the provincials. The provincials report to their assistants. The assistants report then to the Jesuit general. And that's how they keep tabs on all the intelligence and what's going on in all the nations of the world.
There were factions of the Christian church which developed into this Jewish sort of Christianity. And this Jewish Christianity ultimately developed into what we now know today as the Roman Catholic Church. And the Roman Catholic Church is essentially Judaism for Gentiles. All right? And if you understand the nature of Judaism, when the Jews were freed from the Babylonian captivity, they brought with them the witchcraft that they learned from the Babylonians. And they inculcated that witchcraft into what we call today Judaism.
You hear a lot of people that they'll call in on the talk shows and they'll say, oh, the Vatican's in charge, the Vatican's in charge, the Vatican is running the world system, it's the Jesuits, Eric John Phelps says it's the Jesuits are running the show. But when you actually look at what's happened in the Vatican since World War II, it has taken a distinctly pro-Jewish, pro-Zionist.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And that was planned that way, by the way. As I mentioned, the play The Deputy and the psychological impact it had on the whole world, and why it was written and produced, that turned everything upside down, particularly aimed at the church, the Catholic Church.
Some people in the church, when they talk about the devil, when they talk about Satan, they use it as a metaphor for the weakness of human beings. You're talking about something very real, aren't you?
The Jesuits were the foremost in the Counter-Reformation in Hungary. They set about successfully reconverting people from the Christian faith back to Romanism, and the golden age of biblical faith in Hungary was lost.
According to Solzhenitsyn, the communists have already killed 66 million of their own people in Russia, either through war, execution, or slave labor camps. That is the price that the communists paid to Lucifer and to his Antichrist.
And so the Pharisees were actually engaging in witchcraft, and Jesus called them out for that, okay? The fact that they had replaced the laws of God with their traditions, and those traditions were based on this Babylonian witchcraft.
Absolutely, very real. I'm saying that if you believe in the gospel, you believe in the existence of the devil's power to possess people, the power that he has to take possession of people.
John Paul I, it's well known now at this time that he had every intention to clean the Masons out of the Vatican. But of course, they murdered him first. They killed him within 33 days.
The World Bank will see to it that every other nation is brought to its knees through inflation, through a huge national debt. Everybody will be enslaved to this World Bank, whose chief executive is the Antichrist.
Now, the Jesuits are essentially a priesthood which is answerable to the Pope. All right, they are not answerable to any of the regional cardinals. They are answerable directly to the Pope, and they are the militia of the Roman Catholic Church, of the Vatican.
If you look up Khazaria, you will find that there were many Jews who lived in Khazaria. Khazaria was a Gentile nation composed of white Gentiles, and there were also black Gentiles there. There were also Jews there who conducted commerce.
And now we have another Jesuit, Pope Francis. He makes no bones about the fact that he was trained a Jesuit, and he still is very much a Jesuit and acts very much like a Jesuit.
They're part of a conspiracy against God and man. And so the Jesuits are a crypto-Jewish organization, and they basically control the Roman Catholic Church.
Can you imagine if the full weight and force and power of the Vatican was to debunk Zionism and the Holocaust, which they never.
They wouldn't dare. They wouldn't dare.
No, but what I'm saying is, can you see how subordinate the Vatican is to Judaism?
Oh, absolutely is. Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, it has been, as I said, since the Vatican II.
Pope Francis presenting the Roman Church as if it were a genuine Christian church, and the world bowing down to it, and people accepting Romanism.
The doctrines of the Jesuit, they actually hold the Jesuit general in higher esteem and higher authority over the Pope. And the Jesuit generals, typically, they refer to him as the Black Pope.
The Bible and tradition also warn us that the agents of the Antichrist will infiltrate the Catholic Church and will take over its visible structure. I'm afraid this is what we are seeing today, not only in America, but throughout the world.